Tonight on Closer Look, breach at the board. A recent data breach at the Toronto District School Board could include 40 years of student records. The board recently released more details about the cyber incident that was reported earlier this month. Toronto Today editor Allison Smith joins us tonight from Toronto with the latest. Allison, let's start with what we know so far. How many boards were hit and what kind of information was compromised?
So, Scott, we do not have a complete list of all of the school boards that were impacted by this breach. The boards that were impacted all use the software, which is sold by a company called PowerSchool, and it is used to store student information. So we know that there are impacted boards in multiple Canadian provinces, including Ontario, Alberta, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. But the software is also used across the United States. So school boards in North Carolina, for example, they were also impacted. And a lot of the information we have about this is from boards communicating to parents. But what the boards are communicating is really what PowerSchool told them, and they're making that pretty clear. So we're really relying on, the company through the mediators of the school boards to let parents and teachers and students know what's been going on.
So, Allison, we know there was a data breach, but do we know if any of the information was actually shared on the web?
So once again, we are really relying on what PowerSchool has told the Toronto District School Board about this. The TDSB says that PowerSchool assured it that any data that was breached has been deleted and was not posted online. The way that they described this, the TDSB in its memos, makes me think that we're dealing with a ransomware incident here. That's when a malicious actor, a hacker, often from a foreign country, works to breach a company or an organization's data and then holds it hostage in exchange for money. So I feel like for PowerSchool to have gotten such a confirmation that the data wasn't going to be posted anywhere, they might have had to pay for that. But this is really a piece of a pretty big problem. CSIS, Canada's spy and security agency, warned the public last year that this is something that Canadian institutions really need to be on the lookout for and have very strong cybersecurity protocols to protect against, because these malicious actors really are targeting public institutions as well as companies, as well as, in this example, a company that public institutions like school boards rely on. So in Toronto, we've seen hospitals face cybersecurity incidents several times in the past in recent years. And the Toronto Public Library, in a very profile incident that I believe happened at the end of 2023, but lasted 4 months. A cyber attack against the library took it completely offline for months, and librarians were having to sign out books with pens and paper. So it's a huge problem, and it seems like something institutions and corporations aren't necessarily always prepared to protect against.
So yesterday, the TDSB released a little more information. What did they reveal?
Yeah, so what they revealed yesterday was quite surprising, I think, and it is the extensiveness and the decades of student information that was being stored in PowerSchool that I think, surprised me, because you think about a hack like this again on student information that's being stored by the board, you might assume that it's, current students or, students that were in the school board for the last couple of years. Well, it turns out this data goes back to 1985. So, you could have been that's 40 years ago, people this could be affecting 58-year-olds that went to were finishing high school in Toronto in the mid 80s, which is quite surprising. And the board said it stored all of that data because it wanted to be able to retrieve student records for former students. So the data going back to 2017 is more extensive. So for more recent students, there's more information released, or I guess we don't know that it was actually released. All the TDSB is saying is that this is what was stored. So they don't know exactly, I suppose, what was breached by CyberSchool and the attack, but they're letting parents know what information was stored. So this is everything from names, date of birth, health card numbers, what school students went to, when they went to the school, medical information, including allergies, home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, First Nations and Métis Inuit information, and including discipline notes that students might have got from their principals. So a lot of information available, or a lot of information was stored. And this kind of gives you a depiction of what the software was used for, or continues to still be used for. And when you go back to students that attended the school between 1985 and 2017, it's a bit less information, but it's still, date of birth, address, phone number, health card number. I'm assuming for people that attended school in 1985, some of that personal information has likely changed a fair bit, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with. And some information about staff as well, teachers and principals.
So do we know, Allison, moving forward, what specific measures PowerSchool will take to prevent similar incidents in the future?
I don't think we've heard that specific information from them. They are offering to provide, how did they put it, credit monitoring and identity protection services to minors that had their data breached for 2 years. So that feels like a little bit of a communications PR, try to smooth this over type of offer. I don't know how many people are going to take PowerSchool up on this. Obviously, millions of people are impacted by this across North America. I was looking into this. Like I said, this is happening in the United States as well. And there's already law firms attempting class action lawsuits against the company. So for PowerSchool, this is a headache that's probably likely to go away very fast. In Canada, we have the federal privacy commissioner has said that he's looking into it, and the TDSB, the Toronto board, has signaled that it has sent the whole situation to the Ontario privacy commissioner, and that a file has been opened to investigate this as well. So I guess it remains to be seen how much information these privacy watchdogs will be able to get out of the company. Will they be able to find out stuff that we don't know yet? Because the communication's been quite careful from both the board and the PowerSchool firm so far.
So outside of opening a file with the privacy commissioner, what other legal or maybe regulatory actions is the TDSB considering or possibly facing regarding this breach?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, one thing I thought was a little comical in their memo yesterday was when they mentioned that a file's been opened by the Ontario Information and Privacy Commissioner. They said, do not email them and try to open another one. Like, it's already there. If you bug them, you're not getting anything more because it's already happening. So I thought that was a little funny. But it also, shows that the TDSB either knows or expects that parents are concerned about this and that they're going to want to take some sort of action of their own. So the TDSB hasn't signaled that it's, filing legal action or doing anything like that with PowerSchool. It hasn't even said that it's going to stop using PowerSchool. So I think it's pretty up in the air what kind of ramifications it will take. It could receive. We know class action lawsuits are quite a bit easier to get off the ground in the U.S., which is why I'm unsurprised that that's sort of starting there. But I think, big picture, this, is another example of how online, privacy is a kind of a dangerous game. We don't, many parents probably didn't even know that their students' information was being stored, by a private company contracted by the board who was doing it en masse all across North America. You just don't even think about these things. They might think it was just in a file in the principal's office, which is probably how it would have been done, before we had such mass communications as we do now. So I think, it's a little bit just what happens in the modern world, and, maybe get used to it might be the real outcome. And perhaps, if PowerSchool is, if we take them at their word, and none of this data was actually posted anywhere, and everything's cleaned up, then maybe that's the end of it. But it's a sign that you don't know where our personal information is being stored. It's being stored all over the place, and there are actors that are going to try to access it, and not necessarily because it's super. There's people out there that just will want the names and former addresses of students who went to the TDSB in the 1980s. That particular information is probably pretty useless to anybody, but it's the threat of having it exposed, of it harming the reliability of PowerSchool and of the boards, and that's the real what hackers and malicious actors like this are really trading on.
Toronto Today editor Allison Smith reporting from Toronto on tonight's Closer Look.